I hadn't seen the Langford estate in 12 years, but the gravel still made the same sound under my boots. Crunch, crunch, like something brittle giving way. The air smelled like honeysuckle and old money. And there it was, that sprawling colonial mansion with the black shutters, brick pillars, and a driveway wide enough for wedding processions. It used to be home. Until the day after my father's funeral, when my stepmother Marla stood in the foyer in black lace and said, "Your boarding school's expecting you Monday. Pack light." I was 15, and just like that I became a guest in my own bloodline. Now I was 27 and I wasn't knocking this time because I wasn't here for permission. I was here because of one document I found in a fireproof envelope 6 months ago. My father's original will, one Marla never filed, one that named me co-owner of this house, 50%. I pushed open the iron gate, walked past the roses Marla planted to erase my mother's garden, and rang the bell. The door opened slowly. Marla appeared in a silk robe, glass of wine in hand, like I'd interrupted her kingdom. Behind her stood Tyler, her son, the golden boy, all chin and charm with the same arrogant smirk he wore at my father's burial. "What are you doing here?" Marla said sharply. "Coming home," I answered, lifting the envelope. She glanced at the seal. Legal, binding, and absolutely real. Tyler laughed. "You think one piece of paper gives you a room here?" "No," I said, stepping past them into the marble foyer. "It gives me half the house." And with that, I placed my suitcase on the floor, not timidly, not defiantly, just finally. Because after 12 years of silence, I wasn't asking to belong anymore. I came to reclaim what was already mine. The walls were no longer familiar. Photos lined the hall, but none of them had me. Not even the one we took on Dad's last birthday, the night he held the cake with trembling hands and whispered, "Make this house yours one day, Lena." That night used to hang above the fireplace. Now it was gone. In its place, Tyler on a sailboat, Tyler in a tux, Tyler holding a golden retriever that I'd never seen in my life. A whole curated history. "Where's Dad's study?" I asked, my voice sharp with memory. Marla didn't flinch. "Oh, we converted that into Tyler's workspace. You know, for his crypto projects." Of course they did. They'd erased me. Not just from the walls, but from the records, too. When I turned 18, I tried to get copies of my father's estate documents. The clerk at the county office told me the file was missing, likely consolidated under the widow's request. Translation. Marla buried me with my father quietly, strategically, and completely legal. And while I was working 14-hour shifts building firewall architecture for Silicon startup clients, they were building a future that never once included my name. When I walked past the old dining room, I paused. The table was new, the chandelier brighter, but the tile floor still had the crack Tyler made the night he threw his first tantrum over a lost chess game. That was the night Dad looked at me and said, "You're the calm one, the one I can count on, and calm doesn't get inheritance. Calm gets ignored, until it walks through the front door with an original, notarized will and changes the locks." Marla watched me like a virus in her bloodstream. "You're not here to stay," she said. I smiled politely. "No, I'm here to reclaim the space where you pretended I never existed." Because the girl they tried to erase. She built herself back line by line, dollar by dollar, silence by silence, and now she remembered everything. We sat at the long dining table like it was a boardroom. Marla at the head, wine glass full but untouched. Tyler sprawled sideways in the chair next to her, flipping a pen between his fingers like this was a casual startup pitch. Me, I placed the folder on the table. Nothing fancy, just facts. "This is the revised will," I began, "filed under federal estate protection. Dad signed it 3 months before he died. He left 50% of the house to me, co-ownership, not discretionary, binding." Tyler scoffed. "That doesn't mean you can just move in." "No," I said calmly. "It means this house is now legally split. You can buy me out or we sell." Silence. Then Marla's nails tapped the wood, slow and rhythmic. "This is a family home," she said tightly. "Your father built this for his legacy, not to be chopped and liquidated like stock. Then maybe he shouldn't have married a woman who erased half that legacy." Her eyes narrowed. "That's not what I meant, but it's what you did." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The truth had its own gravity. "I'm not asking you to move out," I continued. "I'm offering you a choice. Fair market value, split down the line. You can buy my share or we sell together." Tyler leaned forward, jaw clenched. "This is blackmail." "No," I replied. "This is ownership, something I earned in absence while you burned it in privilege." He stood up like he was going to say something cruel. I didn't blink. Instead, I opened the second envelope. "This is a court date. If you refuse negotiation, we'll settle it in front of a judge." Marla looked like a queen stripped of her crown. Her son, a prince with no land. "You don't want to go to war over a house," she warned. I smiled, the kind of smile that comes after 10 years of silence. "No, but I'm not afraid to burn down the throne if I was never meant to sit there." They called it a family dinner. Friday night, 7 p.m., formal attire, home-cooked meal, just like old times. I almost laughed when the invitation came in the form of a text from Tyler. "Let's talk this out, like family." Like family? 12 years ago, family meant a silent vanishing. Now it meant lasagna and lies. Still, I showed up. Not because I wanted closure, but because people who manipulate always overplay their hand when they think they're winning. The dining room was staged like a brochure for reconciliation. Candlelight, cloth napkins, crystal water goblets. Tyler wore a button-down like he hadn't just called me a vulture 2 days ago. Marla was in pearls. She hugged me, brief, cold. "There's someone we'd like you to meet," she said. That's when he stepped in, Mr. Griffin, a clean-shaven man with a leather briefcase and a voice dipped in syrup. "Estate mediator," he introduced himself. "Here to help resolve the misunderstanding." I looked at the folder in his hands, typed on the front, "Voluntary release of inheritance share," so this was the play. Dinner wasn't reconciliation. It was a negotiation room in disguise. Tyler started in first. "We all just want peace. You're doing great on your own, right? No kids, no mortgage. You don't really need this house." Marla chimed in sweetly. "And this estate, it's meant to support family unity. You know that. If you let us buy your portion for, say, $300,000, we can keep the house stable and avoid public filings." $300,000 for $3, $2 million estate. I sipped the wine they poured me, bitter. "Tell me, Marla," I said, turning to her, "did you bake the forgiveness into the lasagna, or is that just Tyler's job?" Griffin stiffened. Tyler went red. Marla's hands froze on her fork, then I pulled out my own envelope. "Actually," I said calmly, "I brought someone too. Judge-approved forensic records, showing the sealed will, the illegal delay in probate, and the asset mismanagement over the past decade." I laid the papers on the table like cards in a rigged game finally turned fair. Bon appetit. And for the first time in this house, no one said a word. 3 days later, the house went quiet, like it was holding its breath. Marla didn't call. Tyler didn't text. Even the family group chat, still named Langford Legacy Circle, went silent. They knew what I had dropped on the table, but they didn't know everything. The original will Dad left me, the one I found in an old fireproof envelope in a Seattle storage unit, had something they missed. A second page, not a legal clause, a handwritten addendum dated 2 weeks before his death. If co-ownership leads to dispute, the property must be liquidated and proceeds split equally. No option to retain unless both parties consent. A liquidation clause, buried, overlooked, but witnessed and notarized. It meant one thing: Marla couldn't keep the house unless I agreed, and I wouldn't. That Sunday I returned to the estate alone, not to argue, not to gloat, but to find one last piece of him, my father, before it all changed. I went to the attic. The room no one used, dust everywhere, tarps over antique chairs. But near the back wall behind the cedar trunk, I found it. His desk, still locked. The key. I'd kept it on a chain for 12 years, not even knowing what it opened. Inside, one faded Polaroid of us fishing at Riverview Lake. A sealed envelope marked, "For Aelina, when you're ready." And the deed to the Langford estate with his original signature and mine, already filled in. I sat on the hardwood, holding the paper like it was a lifeline. Not to the house, but to memory, to proof, to the man who hadn't forgotten me even if the world did. That night I sent Marla a single email. Per the liquidation clause, I do not consent to co-ownership. We will proceed with public sale. Please prepare accordingly. No greeting, no pleasantries, just the truth. And sometimes truth alone is the most devastating weapon of all. I knew they wouldn't go quietly. The morning after my email, I saw the security camera footage. Motion alerts. 2 figures, Marla and Tyler, in the study at 2:13 a.m., one carrying a crowbar. The other, gloves. They weren't here to grieve. They were looking for something. I smiled as I watched them on my phone, climbing onto bookshelves, prying open cabinet backs, whispering too loudly in the dark. They thought they could find his version of the will. The one they hid. The one that conveniently left me out. They were wrong because that document, I already had it. I'd filed it in probate 2 weeks ago, attached with the forensic signature analysis and the liquidation clause notarized in triplicate. And the copy they were tearing this house apart to find, burned by me on purpose, in a ceramic bowl on my father's fireplace. Let them panic. By noon, Marla called. No hello, no apology. "Where's the lockbox?" she hissed. "What lockbox?" "The one your father kept behind the wall panel in his study. Don't play dumb with me, Aelina." I almost laughed. "Oh, that one? You mean the one I found 3 weeks ago, already cataloged and handed over to my lawyer?" Silence. The kind that confirms everything. She hung up. That afternoon, a desperate attempt followed Tyler's voice on voicemail. "Look, maybe we started wrong. We can do $800K. That's fair, right? You don't even want the house. You've got your own life now." Yes, I did, but not because someone gave it to me, because I built it brick by digital brick, far from their poison dynasty. And I wasn't walking away from justice just to make them comfortable again. I forwarded the voicemail to my attorney. Then I walked through the Langford estate one last time. The walls were cracking. The roof needed replacing. The plumbing howled like a ghost. But me, I was calm, because I knew something they didn't. Power doesn't live in walls or old paintings. It lives in truth, preserved like the lockbox I'd opened, the records I'd scanned, and the final clause Marla had never bothered to read. The estate sold in 62 days. Final price, $3, $1 million, after legal fees and back taxes. My share was $1. $44 million wired into my account at 10:12 a.m. on a rainy Thursday in April. Tyler never showed up to the closing. Marla sent a signature by proxy, a silent exit from the throne she built on sand. No apology, no parting words, just gone. I didn't call. I didn't post. I packed 2 suitcases, donated half my wardrobe, and booked a one-way train ticket west. No fanfare. Just a window seat and an inbox full of freelance contracts I didn't need anymore. 4 months later, I found it. A quiet craftsman-style home outside Mendocino, California. White siding, a navy blue door, and a porch swing that creaked like it had stories of its own. 2 bedrooms, no marble floors, no estate, but it had something Langford never did. Light. Morning light that spilled into the kitchen. Warm light that fell across the bookshelves I built with my own hands. Soft light that reflected off the walls I painted sage green in the study, dusty lilac in the bedroom, and silence. Not the silence of tension, of pretending to belong. The kind of silence you earn when you no longer need permission to take up space. Sometimes I work. Sometimes I read. Sometimes I sit barefoot on the porch at dusk with a glass of wine and no need to prove anything to anyone. One day a letter arrived, no return address. Just a line, "You were always the one who stayed quiet, but now I see you were listening all along." Signed, Heather, Marla's niece, the only one who once snuck me a cupcake at age 10 when everyone else forgot my birthday. I smiled, folded the note, slipped it into the drawer beneath the window. No need to reply. The people who see you really see you, never need reminders, and the people who never did, well, they were never home to begin with. This house, it's mine, not because I inherited it, but because I chose it. Every nail, every window, every inch of space. And for the first time in my life, I belong to myself.